GM, sirs and zers, welcome back to the Krown Crypto channel. I am massively tired right now. Don't know why. Got plenty of sleep last night, but you don't give a fuck about that. You give a fuck about price action analysis, of which we're going to be getting into right now. So without further ado, let's just jump right into it. And I suspect that we can begin right on over here on the Krown Chain application. Nope, we're going straight into the charts today and starting off with one of the most simplistic pieces of analysis on the weekly, which has actually been pretty damn accurate since the dawn of history for Bitcoin. And that is simply looking at the yellow 21 exponential moving average on the chart here. And generally speaking, anytime that Bitcoin is above it, good for the BULAs, and anytime that Bitcoin is below it, good for the BEARs. And then of course the slope of it matters as well. And as you can see over the long period of history here, throughout the full history of Bitcoin, I should say, anytime that Bitcoin has been above it, that has been essentially your long-term trend. So why am I bringing this up right now? Well, with last night's closure on the weekly, something of particular interest did happen as Bitcoin did once again just barely reclaim that yellow 20-minute exponential moving average. And as you can see, the slope has flattened out, but still starting to slightly turn in favor of the upside right there. So I would be looking at this as just a generalized chart here as saying that, hey, as long as Bitcoin's above 26,000 bucks on a weekly time frame closing basis, this is starting to coalesce into a better picture for the BULAs, kind of in line with the same analysis that we looked at on Ethereum yesterday as well. And of course, Bitcoin, can very easily come back down and test around it at that $26,000 region or so. But we just don't want to see any closures below there, as that would start to negate this. And at that point, we can reference the last few times that that's happened, namely right on over here when it did break below, and again over here breaking below, and of course when it reclaimed it over here, nice little run, based off it again on that flash dump that we did see off of one of the banks collapsing. And of course we can go through the whole history of Bitcoin, marking off these points of interest along the way. But again, it's the price action position above or below plus the slope. That is the key right there. And as you can see, to the upside, it's actually a lot more, I shouldn't say precise. It's not meant to be precise like that, but it generally respects it a little bit better. To the downside, we do see that slope condition really comes into play because obviously Bitcoin did have a few closures above it in these segments over here, but ultimately the slope was letting you know that, hey, downside still more likely. So in this case, we do see that a consolidation essentially above 26,000 bucks, again, going to be favoring the BULAs. And for what it's worth, despite Bitcoin having a pretty decent leg below it last week to that 24,800-ish region, reclaiming it by end of week, rather important, I would say. Anyways, yes, so let me just reference my notes over here. I suspect that this video is going to be a little bit more on the shorter side because I did want to make this one a little bit more digestible, seeing as today's, not all that much has happened, to be quite frank with you. But what we can go into next is we can go ahead and reference the daily HPDR range indicator. So this was one of the major charts that we were looking at last week. It was suggesting that we're going to see a bounce somewhere around the 24,800-ish region right here. And of course, that bounce, seemingly turning into something a little bit potentially better than a bounce. And of course, we do see that the mean or the average of the 50% of historic returns range is coming in, or just in general, is coming in right around 27,000 bucks. So I would be looking at that as sort of like the next major area, if you will. Now, last week, was it Saturday? Was it Friday? I forget exactly which day it was. We did have a 3-hour time frame setup on the HPDR indicator. Was it on the HPDR? I think it was on the HPDR, or it was on the Jewel. One of those two, man. Which was suggesting a move back around 27,000 bucks. That's obviously already been met. Now the real question is, can Bitcoin actually reclaim this region? As that would be the next sort of major area of interest for begetting, I would say, significant continuation, significant within the context of the current price action to the upside in this case. Probably closer to 28,000 bucks. So just need to see a daily closure above there, and then probably looking for somewhere around these highs that we did see in late May, whether that be 27.8 or maybe even as much as 28.2, somewhere within that range right there. Again, if Bitcoin can do that. And for what it's worth, when we do reference the HPDRO indicator, which I really haven't spoken about too much on this channel, still kind of in development by Caretaker, but we do see something of interest right here as it is starting to cross the zero read to the upside, which would suggest that directional volatility, which volatility is direction neutral, but this gives a bit of a bias on it, according to Drift, would be favoring the upside. So for what it's worth, looking okay right there as well. Anyways, moving on now, as we are, or should we actually... Should we go through the lower term timeframes? I guess we could just briefly look at them. I actually haven't looked at them myself this morning. I mean, it's kind of telling us the same thing that we already know, though, in the sense that, hey, as long as Bitcoin's above 2026, generally favors the Bulas. Below 26,000 bucks, gonna start to look a little bit more questionable for the Bulas there. But yes, anyways, let's go through stochastic momentum. I did want to first reference the 5-day time frame. The 5-day time frame for spot price action is actually closing tonight, and the current pivot has come down significantly. Two things of major interest right here, actually. The first would be that there is a nice trend line forming, or has been forming, throughout the last few lows, going all the way back to July of last year. So that was connected with this low from about 20,000 bucks. Let me just mark it off right here. Boom, that low right there. And then this low right here, this, the current cycle low thus far, and potentially this low over here. So is that going to be, is it going to come to play? Well, let's see where the next pivot moves down to as tonight does close, because this pivot has already moved down significantly. Just 2 weeks ago, this one was like closer to 29 or 30,000 bucks. Now it is at 27,000 bucks. Not that far away from current price action, certainly where even Bitcoin was yesterday. So if that number continues to come down on this next closure, even closer to where current price action is, or even below it, that'd be a damn good indication that we are going to see yet another bounce from this trend line, from this proverbial regression right here, and this, seemingly another, perhaps another low, in this case, a higher low. But anyways, now moving into CME, stochastic momentum, I should denote that, hey, CME's picture is different here. Obviously, that's going to be on a slightly different schedule. But when we go down to the other lower term timeframes, let's just see where things are kind of positioned as of right now. 2-day time frame is going to be positioned at 26,270. Bitcoin's currently above that by a few $100, or a couple $100, it looks like. Daily time frame is also going to be showing upside, and also simultaneous. I wouldn't say hidden. It's not hidden, but it is regular bullish evidence coming all the way back from March of 2023. So that was actually not that long ago. But again, another regression right there, marking off this low. Let me just mark it off. Boom, this low connected with this low before this nice rally, connected with this low before this quick rally, and then potentially this low over here before this potential rally as well, maybe to the top side of that falling channel, the falling pizza, or whatever the fuck you want to call it. Again, these things do typically have a bullishly imposed resolution. Not always. I believe it's in the low 60%, so it's not like super high, but there is an implied move to be made if it does have the bullish resolution, which would be met with a daily closure. I would even say a 12-hour closure above about 27,600 at current price. So that'd be another a little bit earlier way of kind of beginning that next sort of continuation. I'd still kind of stick with my next area as like 28,000, low 28s is kind of a nice, at least medium-term time frame pullback region, but of interest right here. And again, daily stochastic momentum will remain to the upside freshly, as long as Bitcoin, assuming Bitcoin today closes above 25,450 basically on CME. 12-hour time frame is also going to be showing upside pressure as long as Bitcoin is above where? Is above 25,000 bucks. 6-hour time frame is also going to be showing upside pressure above 25,600. 4-hour time frame is also going to be showing upside, although getting into the very, very critical zone here, I should say, above 25,700 or 25,800. And hourly is going to be coming down here below 26,500. So, it does look like maybe after a bit of a short-term time frame pullback here, which might take it a little bit lower, might even officially retest 26,000 bucks. Bulas are going to have their chance. So the ball is once again in the Bulas court. As we kind of said, coming off of Friday's price action, coming into Saturday based off that setup that we saw in the 3-hour time frame, now kind of bleeding into other setups as well. So in this case, I do think that I do think, again, maybe short term we do see a bit of a pullback. Can definitely happen. I believe if we do reference even the 4-hour time frame over here, there's probably, there is some bearish divergence come off that last high. So I would be looking at that as an indication that we could see Monday play a bit sideways and down. But again, that sideways and down, as long as it does not violate 26,000 bucks, well, that would be, in this case, a higher low for the blue laws, and I would be looking for things to kind of try again higher. Also of note here, before I let you go, is Dixie chart. Just kind of following up on this one, last week, the week before that, we were looking at this as potentially another lower high in a series of a few lower highs now, and that was also met with hidden bearish divergence, and we did see that earlier target of 102 already met. Because it was met so fast, I do believe that this one is more likely to reach all the way back down to the bottom side of the range, that being about 101 and 20 cents or so, somewhere around there. So does that likely help out Bitcoin or risk on assets? Probably yes. They haven't necessarily been playing, one-to-one with each other recently, but ultimately, I would be looking for this one to have further downside on the weekly. Now on the daily, does it try for a bounce, sooner rather than later? Probably, yeah. But again, I think that bounce very likely fails just based off the higher term timeframes, as we do see these things start to take over and, probably march its way closer down to about 101.10, 101.20-ish region. So risk on assets probably get another shot alongside traditional markets, or traditional markets are risk on assets, obviously. Again, I do think that NASDAQ, it hit our 15,450 target from last week, even exceeded it by like a decent amount, almost all the way to 15,500. Maybe it goes for one more new high on this current rally, but I do think it's getting ready for a pullback relatively soon. So, how does that play with Bitcoin? Hasn't really played at all with Bitcoin recently, so it doesn't really matter, perhaps. But again, those were the major things that I'd be looking at. I expect that we'll have more things to discuss tomorrow. Today have been pretty damn quiet. I mean, this whole last couple months have been pretty fucking quiet, right? But in this case, I suspect that we'll have some more interesting things to be looking at throughout that time. So again, $26,000 if we're on the higher term time frame. So the downside, very, very important number. To the upside, $27,000 on a daily is sort of the next major area of interest, I would say, for the blue laws to clear and then expedite that next run up to the top side of the current range. Anyways, yeah, that's going to do it for today. As always, wish you the best of best. Take care, much love, and see you hopefully tomorrow.